Hello beer tubers and welcome to another beer review with me, Peter, the master of hoppers, checking out a Christmas / festive seasonal that I've been really stoked about trying again. This is actually basically a Throwback Thursday video because I already reviewed this beer, or we could call it a 23 vintage review. Let's see. So we're checking out none other than Sierra Nevada's Celebration Fresh Hop IPA. This beer, I think, to my knowledge, has never been released in Denmark for the Christmas season and the winter season. I think this is the first time it made it over, and I was really stoked to see that. It's been in Europe a few times before, but never in Denmark. Again, to my knowledge, maybe it has. But I reviewed this beer maybe 8 or 10 years ago or something like that. I got it sent when I lived in my old apartment. Got it sent from David in Maryland, and I reviewed maybe with the load of malts. We really liked it. I think we gave it a straight 90. Very old school, you know, West Coasty IPA with crystal malts and then the fresh hops. So what was really cool is that I saw this, there was talk about this online, and I messaged one of the guys who then work at a distribution company called One Pint. That is the company that imports these. And I asked him if he knew when it will be available in my area. And he was like, soon. But I can just have one from the company. Turns out it was actually his boss. Swing by the Bad Seed Brewery where I work and bring you guys some cans. So they did, which was awesome. So thanks a ton to One Pint. They got us a 6-pack to share. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. I've always actually been a little bit after One Pint, if I gotta be honest, with some of their beers in the past, because they had a reputation for a long time as some cans were fairly old. It could also just be because it was stocked in supermarket shelves for a long time. But some of those like American brands that they had, you'd see them and they'd be like 6-7 months old. But this is 2 months and like a week or 2 weeks when I'm drinking this, which is insane. So they've really upped the ante on that. And the reason why I found out about that was because I went to a supermarket locally and found, like, was it a 3-month-old can of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale? It was a Torpedo. And I was like, what? What's going on here? So they're getting the air shipped over in a cooling, or airship. Is it airship? I can't remember. They're getting it over in a cooling container at least. So it's cool all the way, which is really cool. Cool. So yeah, at least with Sierra Nevada beers. I don't know if it's with all their American imports. And I actually don't know how many American imports they do these days. But let's see how it's holding up. This is a legendary beer. It's a beer that I know a lot of beer geeks get every single year, and they go through quite a few of these. A lot of people just really love it. And also a lot of brewers love this beer. You can see if you follow a lot of these brewer Instagram profiles with people working in the beer industry. So it's 6.8%, it's 65 IBUs, and then it's got some caramel malts in there, which is giving off the color, and the hops are Cascade, Centennial, and Chinook, and then American Ale Yeast. So they get these fresh hops flown in or transported in directly to the brewery as soon as it's been harvested. It's a very big thing in the States to do these fresh hop ales, where they do you do IPAs where you dunk in a load of fresh hops in, like, I think it's often the whirlpool. I don't think you could put them in a dry hop necessarily. So you dunk it in just for, you know, infections and whatnot that could occur. And I think there's a tradition as well in Germany, and that's where it maybe stems from, where you make Grünhopfbier, which is around the same hops harvest season, and it's often goes, these beers are often made like Bock beers, then they add the green fresh hops to them, or sometimes Pilsners, and they can also be really, really nice. So let's stop talking and let's drink some beer. This looks nostalgic. This is what a lot of people will think of when they think of West Coast IPA. It is crystal malt colored. It is dark. This is like ruby red, rust orange. It looks nice in the glass. Also a touch of haze, which is interesting, because it looked fairly clear when I poured it. But it's in a can. It should hold up quite well. And cold shipped, and it's somewhat fresh. Let's check out the aroma on the 23 vintage of Sierra Nevada Celebration Fresh Hop IPA for the first time in like 8 years, maybe 10. That is so old school. Like, this is exactly what I think when people like talk about they want West Coast IPAs to be bitter and grapefruity. Like it's so old money. Like, exactly like when I've seen people complain about modern West Coast IPAs being too fruity. This is what they want. Like, so much like intense like grapefruit and pine and resin triceps, sugar-coated pink grapefruit. But then there's the crystal malt backdrop, like, and it's this caramelly, toasty, bready nuance. And like, I actually think a beer like this you need to drink even fresher than beers without crystal malts, because the crystal malts will already have like an oxidative effects on hops. But it smells really good, and it smells very vibrant and very fresh. Like, the packaging on this is pretty fresh and must be great, because it doesn't smell like any oxidant has been in this can. Also, even though it's a bit hazy, because it smells vibrantly hoppy. It smells somewhat juicy, actually, like orangey, with a grapefruit and everything. Does it smell festive? Does it smell like a Christmas beer? No. Like, the thing is, like, some people complain about IPAs being Christmas beers. I guess this is maybe one of the reasons why it happened, because this is one of the first, like, seasonal hoppy beers. The only thing slightly festive about it is the rich crystal malt backbone. I mean, compared to their pale ale and torpedo, this is even richer in crystal malt aroma. Marmalade-y vibes too, but it's not all the way in tea leafy hops, which I often get with older IPAs at all. And that's what I often got with these back in the day, and that's why back in the day I actually also thought that was a key flavor of American IPAs, oxidized hop flavor. But this, doesn't have that. It smells so nostalgic. Let's give it a taste. Cheers. And thanks to One Pint for sharing some cans. Oh, you gotta be an old money beer geek to love this. That is so nostalgic to drink, man. Oh, it's bitter. It's really abrasively bitter. It drinks really nicely. I got 2 more cans of this. I need to share one of them with just Michael or something. I think he would get a kick out of trying this. Like, this is so old school. I think there's also something with the bitterness. So the flavor profile from the hops is already like earthy, resiny, all this grapefruity. But when the bitterness is this high, then that also amplifies it even more. So like, the more slightly harsh flavor is amplified by the bitterness. That's why some of the modern West Coast IPAs usually don't go higher than 65 like this, and most of them are often, as I've found, around 50 IBUs, and some don't even mention it. Because you want the bitterness, but if it's too high, I feel like it amplifies more of those kind of classic sea hop flavors. Especially in this, well, because it is classic sea hops. I feel like I'm enjoying this much more than the first time I had it. But the first time when I had it, it's 10 years ago, so I'm not entirely sure. I rewatched some of the review. I liked it a lot, but I think part of me back then was also maybe the bottle and the freshness. I'm not sure how fresh it was, but shipping in bottles is like, this is just much better packaging for a beer like this. So like, it holds up a whole lot better. But man, this is sugar-coated grapefruit, pine needles, sticky hop resin, hop oil, loads of bitterness that just dries out the palate, like squeezes the palate, with layers of crystal malt, like toasty, bready, sweet, caramelly, malty flavors, almost like caramelized, toasted kind of bread, not rye bread, but like a caramelly kind of toasty breadiness with orange grapefruit marmalade on top. Like, it's such old school flavors. Give this to a new money haze bro, and they're gonna run screaming for the hills and call this shit. Like, this is almost like it's like almost like Arrogant Bastard diet version or the light version, because that beer also has like high bitterness, much higher than this, and like loads of crystal malts. I think it even goes in towards like a red IPA type or red ale type territory, because there's so much crystal malt flavor on it. This is a fucking great beer though. Like, it's so old school, but it just holds up. This is just such great craftsmanship. It's just like a true testament to just sticking to what you do and do it well. Like, because this is done so well. I think this is great. I don't think I like it as much as maybe, a really fresh bottle of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale or can, for example. I think that's a little bit better than this, but that's also just because I'm not the biggest fan of heavy crystal malt flavors in hoppy beer. I can enjoy it sometimes, like now, like this is really nice, but I do prefer lighter malt canvas for hoppy beer. If you love these kind of old school beers, and if you're sick of West Coast IPAs being turned modern, you need to get some of this. And if you're in Denmark, you should try and look for it now because it's here and it's fresh and it's the recent vintage. And I don't know, they probably got a load of different batches, I'd imagine, because they got a whole container, I think. So there's going to be a lot wherever. But it's out now, and it's something to drink in December, I think. And since it's 1 pint, I'm sure you're going to find this everywhere, like most supermarket. I think they supply this. I mean, wherever you find Sierra Nevada, usually, you probably can ask for this, I think, if you want to try it. It's a legendary beer. It's an awesome beer. It's an old school beer. And if you love those kind of beers, you'll love this. Do I love it? I really, really like it. I really, really like it. I'm not like in love with it. I can see why people hype this every season. It's a great beer. So I think I'm going to score it a little higher than the first time just because the experience is more fun. I enjoy it a bit more. Maybe because it's fresher, maybe it's a can. But I got 91, 92, something like that. Early 90s, really great. Old school beer, done to a T. Like, this is how, if you want to make a beer with loads of hop flavor and crystal malt, this is it. Do you really taste that it's more fresh, the fresh hops in there? I don't know, per se. It's interesting, like, fresh hops, how do they taste? Well, they taste like hops, but you need to use a lot because they're not dried or pelletized. So I think you use often, it's over triple the amount or something like that. Like, people, when they use it, they use so much in like wet hop beers. But also, one of the things with fresh hop beers, you need to drink them within a few months because the flavor fades quicker than classic pellet hops or whole leaf dried hops. So that's also part of it. But I've rambled enough. This video is way too long. Nostalgic rant. But check them out. Thanks to 1 pint for the beer. This is really fun. I'm looking forward to be drinking the other 2 cans. And I'm definitely sharing one with just Michael because I think he will enjoy this. Because it's so old school. So if you guys had a chance to try the 23 Celebration Fresh Hop IPA from Sierra Nevada, let me know what you thought of it. As always, remember to comment, subscribe, check the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Ring the bell for future notifications about videos about the bill. And I want to say cheers and see you guys in another beer review.